Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us here. If you're watching us on YouTube or Instagram, this is Newsworthy. And my aim really with every video, so to speak, is to take you beyond just the headlines, to join the dots, to look at a story closely, to learn myself, and to get perspectives which are normally lost. I know Hathras has made a whole lot of people angry, concerned. It has also got extremely politicized. But my argument through the last couple of days is that many of the factors that were present in Hathras really are something that are present in many parts of this country, in UP, in Rajasthan. A whole host of barriers exist when it comes to accessing justice for victims and survivors of gender-based violence and sexual violence. My guests today, and already on your screen, are two gritty women. I have Shubhangi. She represents AALI, that's the Association for Advocacy and Legal Initiatives. It's an entire team. And also you can see Devika Prasad. She is at the CHRI, the Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative. Why have I brought the two of them together? Because very recently, the CHRI put out a report titled Barriers in Accessing Justice. It was a combined and a joint effort of the CHRI and AALI, the two organizations that the two young women represent. It has documented testimonies of 14 survivors of sexual violence from 7 districts of Uttar Pradesh. It's got Aligarh, Amroha, Jhansi, Jaunpur, Muzaffarnagar, Auraiya, Lucknow. I think I have 7. What is this report telling us? Are there similarities with what we are seeing in Hathras and other parts of Uttar Pradesh, perhaps other parts of this country? I'm going to try and focus this conversation foregrounding Hathras, but learn and try and unpack what this report is telling us when it comes to barriers in accessing justice. So Shubhangi and Devika, thank you very much for sparing time. I know we've tried to do this a couple of times, but have failed on many occasions. But the report is evergreen in that sense. So thank you very much for sparing time. Devika, should we begin with you? And tell us a little bit about the report. When was the study done? How have you chosen these 7 districts? How did you come down to these 14 survivors? And how should we look at the report? Where does it start and where does it end? What does it not touch, so to speak?
Thanks, Anubha, and it's great to be here with Shubhangi and to just keep sharing platforms. So on the report really focuses on the very first stage of when a survivor goes to the police to report a complaint, and then the procedure which is supposed to follow in terms of the registration of the complaint, which is the police's responsibility. And it's the registration of the complaint which basically kicks the legal process in motion. So it's very important from that standpoint that registration of the complaint, the document which is produced is called the First Information Report. It's not a document of necessarily evidentiary value. It just collates and records the first information of the allegation that some crime has taken place, and in the words of the person who's reporting. So that's really important, that it really comes from the perspective of the person who's reporting. Any additional information should only sort of expand or make clear the information which is being given by that person. So what we really wanted to look at is whether when women survivors of rape, of sexual violence, when they approach the police to report, what is that experience of getting the complaint registered? Because we've been hearing for years and years, the women's movement, lawyers, civil society, this problem of refusal by the police, right then and there, at the gateway to the legal system, is still very much alive and well. And this documentation is a testament to that.
Okay.
It's very unfortunate that that's the case, because that also has a huge amount of repercussion for the survivors pursuing of the legal system. And this, the registration to be done right then and there, immediately, with a copy of the FIR to be given to the survivor, with support to be expressed and given to the survivor, all of that is her right.
I think we delve into that, Devika, as we proceed along the conversation. Do you also want to sort of tell our viewers as to when work for this particular report started and ended? And then I'll take it to Shubhangi as to how we have sort of, I hate to say it, but sort of come down to these 14 women, or sort of brought them into the report, shortlisted, bad word, but how did we sort of narrow down on the 14? I'll take that to Shubhangi, but tell us, when was the work for this report done?
So we began last year in 2019, in about mid 2019, and we came to AALI with the idea because we knew about the work that AALI does supporting survivors from the very beginning. And we wanted to get the perspectives of both survivors and support persons. So the network of AALI caseworkers, it was really insightful to be able to talk to also support persons and lawyers who assist survivors. So about mid last year, we began the field work. And so we spent, the lion's share of the time was actually on traveling to the districts and speaking to everybody. And that could only happen through AALI's network. So, just one small thing, that in even documentation like this, it's so difficult to access affected persons. So, that linking up with partner organizations who have very trusting relationships with affected persons really is makes it much stronger.
Shubhangi, so take it away. How did we, tell us a little bit about the process, because I think that's extremely important to understand. How did we sort of quote unquote narrow on these 14 women, and is there something common between all 14? Tell us a little bit about their age groups and whatever details that you can give out to us, Lee.
All right. So when CHRI and AALI actually got together, we did have to actually figure out how to actually identify, how to point out what cases to intervene in. We first started with, I think, just trying to look at the cases at our Lucknow office, and then we reached out to all our, so AALI mentors, trains and mentors frontline defenders across Uttar Pradesh. And then we started looking at all our cases across UP. We have caseworkers, of course, in a greater number of districts. But then to get to, I think, to finally come down to the 14, we had to fix a time period, because it could have just been much wider. And apart from that, we also took some geographical factors in point, and ultimately, of course, it was the caseworkers and the survivors who were willing to participate in the study, and they're all adult women. That is something that we were very particular about, because for minors there's a different law that is now in place. So these are all adult women. I think as for the age group, they're all I think under 40. I think majority are all under 40. Devika, please correct me if I'm wrong here.
Yeah, it's about 18 to 30 is the, in the majority.
I think on the more older spectrum would be, I think, a survivor who's 37 or so.
Okay.
Actually, we.
So let's try and understand what the report and what the documentation is telling us. What is common to these 14 survivors, Shubhangi?
Well, what is most common is that all of them were refused the lodging of the FIR at the first instance. All of them, all 14, have experienced a delay in the lodging of their FIR. The delay has ranged between 2 days to 228 days. That's the spectrum. Again, majority of these cases are of sexual violence, though there are a couple of cases of gang rape also. But all of them have faced a form of, say, aggravated sexual assault, either rape or gang rape. And the delay and they have all faced a form of re-victimization when they approach the police system to to initiate, like Devika said, to initiate their journey to accessing justice, to actually experiencing justice.
So give us a sense, Shubhangi, you say 2 to 228 days when it comes to dealing FIR. What was happening at that first point of accessing justice? What was the rationale the police was giving to these various women across several districts in Uttar Pradesh to either not file an FIR or sort of create barriers when it came to filing an FIR?
So what was happening was that the police was at points just not very accepting of the fact that women are coming with true complaints, that these are true instances, and they want to access the formal system. And that's the point of the re-victimization that we've been talking about. That there has been a refusal to even accept the fact that women are coming with true complaints that call for a police action. Then there have also been attempts by the police to convince them to look for options outside of the system, to go in for a compromise, to telling them that it's going to be time-taking, that it's going to be complicated, that it's not something that's going to be in their favor. So they should, they presented them with the option of marrying the perpetrator, like the accused, with the option of settling it before even coming to the police, or actually just outrightly telling them that they're using the system, that they're trying to use the system to harass the accused, or to just misuse the process, even, and hence not letting them use the process.
So I'm just reading out sort of a synopsis of your report, where you say that out of these 14, FIR was actually registered only in 11 cases eventually, and the time took the police was about 2 to 28 days. In 2 cases, the survivor had to compromise and no FIR was filed. In 1 case, a sexual harassment FIR was registered, not rape, as the survivor was alleging. And in 5 cases out of the 11, the FIR was registered after the court's order. Devika, from what Shubhangi is saying, the sense is that there is either a disbelief that the police has, or there is a complete dismissal that the police has, or there is the police taking on this role of sort of being a mentor of social structures, and the problems you would face in the judicial process if you were to actually start that process. And as Shubhangi said, then simple allegations that you're misusing the law. Would it be fair to say that, these 7 districts have come to us from Uttar Pradesh because we've sort of gone and for many other factors, we have brought these 14 women together, but this would be a running thread as to how police, which is the first interface which a survivor of sexual violence would go to, is actually behaving this way because of its training, because of its own social conditioning?
Yeah, I think so. I do feel that it's something which, recurs and affects women across the country in terms of registering, in terms of actually having their complaints registered. There's also, we talk about disbelief, and we talk about, a social conditioning, factors of caste, etc., are all at play here. But, there is also a very real stigma and impact of discrimination, gender-based, caste-based, it could be religion-based, that also I think are affecting police attitudes towards women who come to them. And it's exactly these kinds of realities which police training has to, change itself to be able to recognize that there will be pre-existing prejudices which impact the way that these duty bearers see the people who they're supposed to help and assist.
Devika, I want to just push that point further, and perhaps it'll be useful for people who are listening to this conversation to go sort of to try and understand chronologically what happens when a survivor actually goes to a police station and has that first face-to-face meeting with the police station, whoever is in the police station, and sort of details out for them what has happened to them. The next process would be perhaps making them sit, taking all the documentation which you say goes into an FIR. That is the first statement. What is the quality that you found of the FIRs? What is the quality of the information that has been collected when it was collected? What about the medical process and the physical examination kicking in? What happens to all of those if there is dismissal right at the first step?
So one thing that we've noticed and we've seen also in other cities and states is that when a survivor reaches the police station, she will always have to repeat her story to several to several police personnel. Mainly they will be men, because our police stations largely have male police personnel in them. If there are women police, then they're either in secondary positions or not very much in the forefront, even though the law requires that if a survivor herself comes to report, it is to be a woman police officer who records the complaint. So the repetition of the story, which will be, truly traumatic for anybody. And a lot of women, at least, in these cases, there wasn't too much of a time gap between when the incident happened and when she went to report. So there may have been a tremendous amount of still physical discomfort or harm that she was dealing with, certainly the psychological, stress. So all of that with her. And then when you go to the police, you don't have privacy. You have to repeat your story over and over again. There's probably, not a lot of, it doesn't happen fast. You're made to wait in the police station for hours and hours. And at the end of it, you like we found, because the FIR wasn't registered right away, you will have to come back to the police station. So that process, which the law envisions, in fact, it guarantees that it should happen immediately. It is extended. It is tiring. It's exhausting. And I think, the toll that it takes on survivors is just, it's intolerable, truly.
Shubhangi, I've made a note that I have to ask you as to, perhaps towards the end of the conversation, you must recount as to why women persisted, why families persisted in this quest for justice in the face of so much. But I just want to stick to this conversation for just a bit. There are so many similarities, Shubhangi, with what both of you are recounting and what happened at Hathras, right? 14th of September, the incident happened. The family goes to register an FIR. They have had to wait. There are whole sorts of delays. And then the FIR is registered on charges which are not bearing out the full extent of the violence that has been perpetrated on the woman, right? And it's almost 8 days later when the actual charge of rape is included in the FIR. By this time, as both of you are recounting, physical evidence, forensic evidence that would be extremely crucial for any process of justice to undertake is completely lost. Your team has traveled to many, many parts of Uttar Pradesh during sort of this traumatic period, as well as obviously for this study. What happens? So they go back home, their FIR is not registered, they go back home, then what happens?
So what we've seen usually happens in cases is that after they persist and nothing happens at the police station, they go back, they try and find for contacts, they try and fine for money. If that's what it's going to take to, to get the system to listen to them, they try and reach out to lawyers who again end up asking for money, and of course time. But what does not happen is that they do not get the kind of information and support that is required that would help them understand the process, hence access it. Another actually common factor with all these cases is that they at some point got access to a paralegal caseworker who has, or a lawyer who has at some point been, say, trained or been associated with an organization like AALI that works on feminist legal interventions and practices, and has some understanding of gender-based discriminations and identity-based discrimination, like just those intersectionalities. And through that support is when they actually understood how to escalate it, whom to reach. If the police station is not registering it, then you have to go to the senior police officer, who is the superintendent of police or the senior superintendent of police of that district, make a written complaint to them, tell them that their FIR has been rejected, or it is not, that there's a delay in the refusal, or a refusal in the lodging of the FIR, and tell the senior police officer, who is then going to direct the police station to lodge it. Actually, and in several cases, it happens that even after the direction of the senior police officer, there is a delay. And at that point, they have to go to the court under 156(3) to again, and going to court under 156(3) is purely for the lodging of the FIR. This is nothing else. These are only 3 steps just to get the police to take cognizance of the fact that an offense has taken place, which they need to investigate it.
Devika, what does the law say as far as the MLC is concerned, or the medical legal pro forma is concerned, and is there some specific intervention as far as Uttar Pradesh is concerned?
So in terms of the MLC, I mean, it is to be conducted. See, this is also the thing where the registration of the FIR is necessary, that it happens timely, in a timely way, because then everything flows from there. So until your FIR is registered, your case hasn't even entered, the legal record as such. So that's also important. Though, of course, if somebody needs medical aid, like for instance, the Hathras victim, when one could see, when she was first taken to the police station, one could see that she was in a very, very serious physical condition, then, morally, etc., there is that responsibility that the police also ensure that a victim gets medical aid as soon as possible. So with the MLC, in terms of rape cases, and Shubhangi can correct me if I get anything wrong, see, an MLC should be conducted with the victim's consent. I mean, on her, so all of her clothes, her underclothes, all samples, etc., have to be taken. And the same has to be done with the accused. Because that also then gives you, it'll give you a corroboration in terms of at least forensic evidence, if that bears out. So, in terms of, I mean, that also is very important, that then if the police delay to actually carry out or apprehend carry out arrests or apprehend the accused, this process is also then delayed. So in terms of gathering of evidence, if it doesn't happen, quite fast, just like we've seen in Hathras, we lose the evidence. And
so I'd actually like to add something here with respect to the MLC. The criminal procedure is very clear on the fact that in cases of sexual assault, there has to be a free and instant medical care that has to be given from either a government or a private hospital. And FIR is not necessary for that, but for the medical legal. Now the medical attention in cases of sexual assault are for two major reasons. First and foremost is the medical care. It is the treatment in case there is injury, in case there is an unwanted pregnancy, in case there is transmission of any kind of sexually transmitted infection, in case there is trauma, any kind of psychological injury that has been caused. And the second purpose is the collection of the evidence, which will happen once the FIR has been lodged. Yeah. So, and you may or may not find the evidence. That since if you're looking for biological evidence, which which is DNA sample and like forensic evidence, then there is a strict time period to it. Where again, like Devika is saying, that it is very important that the timely registering of the FIR, and after that the timely referral for the medical evidence collection happens. And also it is also an important part where history is collected. So the evidence, the oral history given to the doctor, that also has evidentiary value. So all of it is, and yeah, again, it's all part of the pieces of the puzzle of an investigation.
And I mean, I know we are sort of bringing Hathras back into this conversation, but as has been proved that a delay in the FIR, a delay in putting the right charges into the FIR, a delay in the MLC, and then when you conduct it 8 days after, you're obviously going to get a certain set of indicators that would not have taken into fact that the victim has bathed, she's changed her clothes, the clothes have been either thrown away, etc., etc. So all that crucial evidence that is needed for a judicial process to start off gets lost. I'm also, just for the benefit of people who are watching in, also talking a little bit about your report, which talks about the police actually verbally abusing the survivors. As I think Shubhangi mentioned, asking them to sort of get into some kind of a social contract, sometimes with the accused. And then you point out intersectionality of caste, that everything is worse off when it comes to Dalit survivors. Devika, we'll have to quickly wrap it up, but do you want to sort of foreground your report and tell us what was sort of the breakdown when it came up to caste, and what was specific for some of the survivors who came in, who were let's say Dalits, what was specific to them?
Yeah, so certainly the Dalit survivors did feel that because we are Dalit, the police do make, derogatory comments, and they refuse us, they disbelieve us. So there's very much
comments that were made.
Well, I mean, there were comments on appearance, for instance, which is by the police, which is, I mean, you would expect that of, you would certainly not expect that from the law enforcement body. So there were comments about appearance. There were comments that you're lying, that you are trying to cover up something else. So you're bringing this complaint, so there's a lot of fiction then that is put
and specifically
forth
against a man from an upper caste.
I mean, that may be. We didn't actually, we didn't sort of look into the caste profiles of the perpetrators, but I think just, the assumption from the beginning, knowing that perhaps this is a woman from a Dalit community, all the assumptions that flow just from there. On the part of the police. So the way that many survivors put it is that, we face a double burden, both of gender and caste-based discrimination. And, the perception for them that if it is an upper caste woman, then it will be easier for her. The complaint will be registered, but not for Dalit women. And I think just that perception that it's so common is, again, it tells us about how much trust there is of one of the most vulnerable communities in the police.
Shubhangi, you want to quickly add to that?
I think in the study, I think it also appeared that the perception and the feeling of persecution by women from the Dalit community, where there was a delay or a refusal in lodging of their FIR, and when they could make the correlation that the caste of the accused and the caste of the police officials is the same, it instantly clicked to them that the reason why their FIR is being delayed is because they are of the same caste. It is because they're all, they've all banded together to just keep them out of the systems. And the point of the systems is that these kind of biases, whether they exist or not in the social setup, should not seep into the system. That is why procedures are in place. That is why, you know, that is why the law is black and white. Yet when women who have to engage with the system can instantly see it and instantly feel it, we know for a fact, and even the caseworkers, this is something that they spoke about. It's not just that one case that they have been responding in. They have been responding, they've been supporting several women in several forms of cases of crimes against women. And this is their underlying observation through this,
Sure.
that the police, that the police does discriminate on the basis of caste, or if the perpetrator is of the same caste as them, there is just this banding together that happens.
Shubhangi, very, very quickly, just a final comment, and I want to bring that question that I asked. What is it that has led to these women continuing to sort of want to access justice in the face of so much? And we're not even looking at how society is reacting, what their neighborhood is reacting.
That we can believe in is the fact that they believe in the system, that they still do believe that if there is any way for them to be heard, for them to experience justice, for them to for the crime that has happened to them, for them to find a result, an answer to why it happened, and this is not correct, it is only the system that they can fall back on. And of course, to find people that can create that safe space, be it the caseworker, be it lawyers, be it the civil society, or say be it the caseworkers from the one-stop crisis center, to find people who can help them navigate this complicated system that is riddled with biases. That is another thing that I sincerely believe has continued to keep their fight alive.
Shubhangi, I've run out of time. Devika and Shubhangi, thank you very much. I think this report, Barriers in Accessing Justice, that's available online, gives you one idea, one slice of what it means when a rape survivor or a survivor of sexual assault actually reaches the first point of interfacing justice. If you've been watching and listening, thank you for your time. Please leave a comment. We'll open it up once again if we find enough comments. Thank you, Devika. Thank you, Shubhangi.
Okay. Thank you.